Hare Krishna, Prabhuji's and Mataji's, Dandat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Srila Gurudev. Please accept my humble obeisances. This is a short chapter we are doing today. So I'm taking the liberty of doing a little longer Kirtan because this was the month when we saw Ram Navami. And whenever any avatar is there, other than Krishna, usually we have a habit of singing the Dashavataram Stotram. So I'll just sing that for the pleasure of the Lordships. Hare Krishna. प्रलयपयोधि जले धृतवानसि वेदम् विहितवहित्रचरित्रमखेदम् केशवधृता मीनशरीरा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे क्षितिरिह विपुलतरे तिष्ठति तव पृष्ठे धरणि धारण किन चक्रधरिष्ठे केशवधृता कूर्म शरीरा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे वसति दशन शिखरे धरणी तव लग्ना शशिनि कलंक कलेवनिमग्ना केशवधृता शूकर रूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे तव कर कमलवरे नखामद्भुत शृङ्गाम् दलित हिरण्यकशिपूतनुभृङ्गाम् केशवधृता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे छलयसि विक्रमणे बलिम् अद्भुतवामना पदनखनीरजनित जनपावना केशवधृता वामनरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे क्षत्रिय रुधिरमये जगत् अपगत पापम् सनपयसि पयसि शमित भवतापम् स्नपयसि पयसि शमित भवतापम् केशवधृता भृगुपतिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे वितरसि दिक्षुरणे दिक्पति कमनीयम् दशमुखमौलिबलिं रमणीयम् केशवधृता रामशरीरा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे वहसि वपुषि विशदे वसनं जलदाभम् हलहति भीतिमिलितयमुनाभम् केशवधृता फलधर रूपा जय जगदीश हरे, जय जगदीश हरे, जय जगदीश हरे। निन्दसि यज्ञविधेर् अहहा श्रुतिजातम्, सदय हृदय दर्शित पशुघातम्, केशवधृता बुद्ध शरीरा जय जगदीश हरे, जय जगदीश हरे, जय जगदीश हरे। म्लेच्छ निवह निधनि कलयसि करवालम्, धूमकेतुमिव किमपि करालम्, केशवधृता कल्कि शरीरा जय जगदीश हरे, जय जगदीश हरे, जय जगदीश हरे। श्री जयदेव कवेरिदमुदितमुदारम्, श्रीनु सुखदं शुभदं भवसारम्, केशवधृता दशविधरूपा जय जगदीश हरे, जय जगदीश हरे, जय जगदीश हरे। वेदानुद्धरते जगन्ति वहते, भूगोलमुद्भिभ्रते, दैत्यं दारयते बलिं छलयते, क्षत्रक्षयं कुर्वते, पौलस्त्यं जयते हलं कलयते, कारुण्यं मातन्वते, म्लेच्छान् मूर्छयते दशकृतिकृते, कृष्णाय तुभ्यं नमः। Hare Krishna. So there was a specific reason why I did this. One was I told you that when we have avatars which are incarnating, we sing Dashavataram in glorification of all the avatars. Second reason is I wanted to give some more time for people to join. And third very important reason is that we are in the fifth canto, and we are seeing how Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, made arrangements for the creation. And this particular canto is uh, basically concentrates on sthanam, or positioning of the living entities in different planetary systems. And so therefore it is very, very important that like we saw in the chapter 5.19, that how the different inhabitants of the different planetary systems are praying the Supreme Lord in his different forms. So for that also, Dashavataram is a very, very significant stotram where we learn how to pray to the different avatars and glorify the Lord for his wonderful creation. So welcome everybody to this Srimad Bhagavatam class in the morning. And we will be discussing chapter 5.23 today. Before that, we'll start with the prayers, invoking the permission from Parampara to discuss the spiritual subjects. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manu Bhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजाता सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादा सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपीशा गोपिका कान्ता राधाकान्ता नमोऽस्तु ते तप्त काञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 रामा राम राम हरे हरे। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्यं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेष भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवत्युत्तमलोके श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नन्दनाय च नन्दगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। नमः पङ्कजनाभाय नमः पङ्कजमालिने नमः पङ्कजनेत्राय नमस्ते पङ्कजाङ्ग्रे नमो महावदन्याय कृष्णप्रेमाप्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्य नाम्ने गौरत्वसे नमः। नमो ब्राह्मण्यदेवाय गोब्राह्मणाहिताय च जगद्धिताय कृष्णाय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधारा श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे 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 रामा राम राम हरे हरे। मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्यमीश्वरम्। ॐ अपवित्र पवित्रो वा सर्वावस्थां गतोऽपि वा यस्मरेत् पुण्डरीकाक्षं सबाह्याभ्यन्तरं शुचिः श्री विष्णु Hare Krishna, Prabhuji's and Mataji's Dandat Pranam. Yeah, so we finished all the prayers. The count is low. Still, we'll go ahead and start the chapter. So before we start the chapter, which is 5.23, and it is titled, sorry, one second. is titled The Shishumara Planetary Systems. That is the title of this chapter. So before doing that, we'll just have a quick recap of what we have done so far. So we know that in the Canto 5, basically it starts with Parikshit Maharaj asking a few questions about the creation to our Shukdev Goswami. And in that process, so what the fifth canto basically corresponds to is the lotus navel of the Supreme Lord. And Shukdev Goswami continues on the topic of Visarga and describes the dynasty of Priyavrata here, which is the other son of Manu. Who's the other son? Uttanapada and then Priyavrata. So basically, from 5.16, we have seen the discussion of Sthanam about the description of the various planetary systems, especially about the Bhumandalam, where which is divided into the various Varshas and Dvipas. So that was the description which was given, and the positioning of the various planetary systems within the structure of the universe. And why this is important? Because this is where all the various living entities are ultimately positioned based on their karma and the past desires. So that is what we had seen so far in the fifth canto. And in this geography of the universe, this later chapters of the fifth canto are mainly focusing on the geography of the universe. So first we saw the basic description in terms of the horizontal structure. Okay, so the first description is about the horizontal structure of the universe, where we are mainly focusing on the Bhumandalam. And later parts also describe about the various portions of it, but primarily it is about Bhumandalam. And so far we have seen that it is basically in a terrace form kind of a structure. So if you have seen when you have visited places, especially the hilly regions where terrace farming happens, so you'll see a step-by-step kind of a structure. The horizontal structure of the universe is also very similar in terms of the Bhumandalam, where we heard about the 7 Dvipas and the 7 oceans of the Bhumandala, and then which is followed by the Golden Land. After the 7th ocean, which is there here, there is the Golden Land. And even there are books written by other acharyas of other sampradaya on Bhugolam, where they also describe that after the Golden Land, there is a diamond land also, which is called the Vajralepa. So it's basically rocks, because diamond is also a rock, but it shines like diamond, and it has characteristics of diamond. And after which the Loka mountains is there, which actually keeps the sun's light permitted within this particular Bhumandalam. So that's why you will see this structure, and this is how the structure looks. So you will see in the 3D form, this is the structure, and these are the Loka mountains, which are surrounding the Bhumandalam. And this is how this terrace-like structure, the different oceans, and ultimately the expanse of the universe. So until the diameter of the universe. So we know of the structure, the oval kind of structure, where the different planetary systems are presiding here. So you will see that there is an outer, a kind of an oval, the outer diameter of the universe. And so this particular diagram is telling us until that outer, the diameter of the universe, what all exists. So this is just a recap. So I'm not touching on everything, but basically a short kind of, so that we are in a proper consciousness when we are doing today's chapter, we have to understand where we are and where we are going. So therefore, a quick recap, especially in terms of the diagrams. And like I told, even in my last time class in 5.20, all these images that I have taken are from the Vedic cosmology class by Srimad Das Prabhuji, who has worked very hard in creating this kind of knowledge bank for us, especially on in terms of the way he has taken the fifth canto and explained everything. When we are reading the text, we won't understand, but when we see it pictorially, it makes a lasting impression in our mind. So therefore, I picked up everything from his classes. So I saw all his 1 to 8 sessions on the fifth canto, and then I picked up from there so that it becomes easy for us to visualize what exactly we are seeing. So when we see the terrace-like structure, it comes like this, like a downhill. So earlier we saw the horizontal structure, and this is what we are talking about, horizontal structure. And the last chapter, which yesterday was taken by Anand Narsimhan Prabhu, was basically about the vertical structure. So once we completed the horizontal structure, it talked about the vertical structure and how the different planetary systems from top to down, even in terms of Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Patala, even the lower planetary systems, how they are actually positioned and how do they look. But even before doing that, first we have to understand Prabhupada's viewpoint on what we are hearing from here, because sometimes our material mind makes us doubt everything that we hear, because we have been fed for this whole lifetime from the school, starting from KG to PG. Wherever we have heard a certain description of the universe and how the planetary systems are, what we can reach, what we cannot reach. The scientists have made their own estimations of what is the distance between the different planets to us, even including the sun. But what Prabhupada says is that when you are reading Srimad Bhagavatam, you have to be satisfied with the statements of authorities. Because what we have seen many times that the scientific descriptions and what the scientists keep discovering over a period of time keeps changing. Their facts and their figures keep changing with time, but it is standard in our scriptures. And ultimately, when uh, when a situation comes that even a minutest detail our scientists are able to find out, which is ultimately coinciding with scriptures, like we saw in our especially when we were doing Bhakti Shastri, the first thing, nectar of instructions. So there also we heard about this, the way we acquire knowledge, whether it is through the Aroha or Avaroha process, whether it is through Anuman, Shabda Praman, or by our sight, by direct experimenting. All those are faulty, because we have we have the four defects in us. We have our senses are limited, and we have a cheating propensity. So whatever anybody is saying, it's not necessary, especially in Kali Yuga, in this material world, that has to be absolutely right. Most of it is concoction. Similarly, like how Darwin's theory is coming up with the process that everything started from matter. That is what Darwin's theory says, that everything starts from matter, and with time, everything is evolving, and it creates consciousness. But there is no explanation of how consciousness is coming into it. So Prabhupada says that scriptures are eternal, and we have to trust. And we have to have faith in whatever is given. So sometimes we may have those conflicts, and it may not resonate with the knowledge we have already learned. So, but by just taking this fact that scriptures are always right, if we have that faith, we can just come in a descending manner from that. Of course, we don't have to negate with other people who are not in the process, who don't believe in scriptures. We can't do anything with them. But this is mainly for our own understanding. It is not for us to argue with others, but primarily for our own understanding that what exactly is, how beautiful this creation is, and the minutest details, the kind of description which is given in this fifth canto actually kind of bewildered me, because it talks about it talks about length and breadth, which I have never even we can't even imagine that kind of length and breadth. So when we think of Himalayas, the tallest mountains in the world, and we are talking about 8,800 meters, where are we talking about the Sumeru mountain, which is 1 lakh yojanas? That is 13 lakh kilometers. Can we even imagine? So 8 kilometers versus 13 lakh kilometers is very, very difficult for us to imagine, but that's how our senses are. We can't really, everything cannot be visualized. But that makes us understand what? Why is all this told in Srimad Bhagavatam? It is for us to understand. And then it is also said that from the pores of what is Karanodakshai Vishnu, from the pores of Karanodakshai Vishnu, the universes are generating. So what it means is that it's like smaller than an atom. I mean, that is the size of the universe. So if we are bewildered by the facts which are given about the universe, so imagine the kind of magnitude of Vishnu or the Supreme Lord. It is unimaginable. So just to make our mind understand that how unimaginable everything is, and that with our normal senses, we cannot, it is inexhaustible. Every time when we talk about any prayers, what do we talk about? Vishnu. We talk about, or Vishnu or Krishna. We basically talk about that how he is unimaginable and his glories are unlimited, and that his description is inexhaustible. Like even Ananta Shesha with his 1,000 hoods has been describing about him and about his glories for millions of years, and he's still not got exhausted, and still there is so much more to talk about. So why all this is important is for us to understand that no, just surrender and think that you cannot understand the Supreme Lord. It's just better to surrender and think that and sing the glories. That is the simplest thing to do, and go back to Godhead. So that is what even Srila Prabhupada is reiterating, that be satisfied with these statements of authorities and appreciate how Lord's external energy manifests the cosmos. That is what we are learning in this fifth canto. And our experimental knowledge can neither verify nor disprove the statements of Srimad Bhagavatam, because we don't even have that capability, not the potential, not even the instruments with which we can experiment and find out. We don't have those kind of telescopes. We are hardly able to see the all the planets. We are not even able to see all the planets. So it is impossible for us to understand the magnitude of the universe. So forget about it. That's what it indirectly means, right? And then what we are, so in the last chapter, now we come back. This is the overall kind of overview of what has happened so far in the fifth canto. But when we come to fifth canto, the 22nd chapter, which was the previous chapter, to this 23rd chapter, it is a description of the vertical structure of our universe, especially with reference point is Bhumandala. So it talks about first, obviously, it starts with sun and where it is located. And so what it says is that, like earlier, we had learned about the different oceans and the different Dvipa. If we remember, the last one was Manasottara mountain, the last Dvipa, which had Manasottara mountain as the central point and a single mountain range in a circular manner. So what the previous chapter talks about is the sun god's chariot wheel is actually keeping that Manasottara mountain as the base. There is a single wheel, and the chariot is driven by 7 horses. There's a single wheel, and that single wheel is actually balancing on the Manasottara mountain peak, and it is traversing the path around the Bhumandala. So that is what it talks about. So now it also talked about how this axle, there are 2 axles. So one axle is which is connecting this chariot wheel to the base of the Sumeru mountain. That is one axle. Now there is another axle also. And this chapter tells us about that importance of Dhruvaloka, how important Dhruvaloka is, and where did actually Krishna position Dhruva and gave him that highest position that we can't, again, it is again unimaginable how actually Supreme Lord gave that kind of a benediction for the small little prayers that Dhruva actually rendered to him out of his faith and surrender. So that is very beautiful when we see this whole description, that where Dhruva is positioned, and that is what is the planet. He gave his own abode. So within the material world also, where Vishnu actually has an abode, and that abode is the Dhruvaloka. So that is where he stays, and that there is an axle which is holding up to this the other axle from Dhruvaloka onto this axle. And how can we imagine this? This is very similar to our normal uh, this kind of what is this? Uh, we know this now. I'm not getting the name. దీంట్లో it's so the axle is here. So this is, if we imagine this to be the Dhruvaloka, and that is connecting to the other axle, which is connecting this particular mortar, where the bull is actually traversing a circular path, and through this the churning is happening, and the oil is getting produced when you put some oil. It's called the girni or whatever. And now we have the modern machine gidneys also, where this kind of churning is happening. But erstwhile, most of our conventional years, we have been working with this model of bull and the axle. And we can imagine that this is the structure, exactly the structure. And if you take this as the Sumerian mountain, and this is the base of that axle. And so that's how this is placed. So why is the second axle required? It's very similar to why this axle is required to hold the other axle and support the other axle. So Dhruvaloka is that important, that it is the connecting axle to the main axle, which is carrying the chariot of the sun. And so in the previous chapter, it also ended with the description of the various positioning of the different planetary systems, where it talks about sun at the as the first planet, which is above the earth. And then above the earth is above the sun is the moon. Of course, they are positioned at different orbits, but in terms of the height, this is how it is. And therefore, you will see that above the moon is the constellations, above constellations is the Shukra Graha, above that is the Buddha, then Angaraka, Brihaspati Graha, Shaneshchara, which is Saturn, and then the Saptarishi and the constellations. Saptarishi and the about 28 constellations are also, or 28 stars, I think, are placed in this place, and the Dhruvaloka pole star is actually the topmost. And the distance between the sun and Dhruvaloka is about 3.8 million yojanas. And everything between the moon and the Dhruvaloka basically comes under the Swargaloka. Below the moon is our Bhumandala, but between the moon and the Dhruvaloka is actually the Swarga. And so this is how actually the structure looks. Here is the Mansotra mountain, and this structure is basically describing where the Meru mountain is there, how these two axles are supporting, and what are the various heights. So you will see here 27 nakshatra constellations are there. Then we see the moon. Moon is here. Okay. And in terms of positioning, we may say that, okay, and yeah, so the sun is here and the moon is here. So they are in different orbits. Height wise, it is here, but the sun is farther to us. But height wise, moon is above the sun in terms of the true north and the true south. So what we are right now thinking of in terms of the north, south, east, and west, we are thinking from the plane of, if you imagine this Bhumandala to be a two-dimensional plane like a paper. And then when you draw the north-south on the paper, that is what is our normal north-south in our day-to-day context. But there is a true north and true south. If you think of the paper like this, and if you think of a pipe which is piercing into the paper, then the upward is basically the true north and southern is the true south. So these are all located in the true north. This is the description how it is going northwards. So this north is different from our normal north. So this Dhruvaloka's north is different from our real direction of north. So yeah, so this is the positioning of the various planetary systems. And so that's how we see that. Now we come to the actual chapter which I have been assigned to, which is 5.23. And what it is talking about is the Shishumara planetary system. The different, if we think of the summary and in terms of the learning points in this particular chapter, is about how the Dhruvaloka is basically supporting the various stars and planets, how it is connected to them. And then this entire shape is of the various planetary systems is actually it is called Shishumara. Shishumara basically means a dolphin. So it resembles a dolphin. And then and this dolphin shaped Shishumara planetary system can also be considered as one of the Virat Rupas. And therefore, sages also meditate on this Virat Rupa. Why? Because Virat Rupa is something where we have learned in Bhagavad Gita that Krishna is giving a descriptions. Even in Srimad Bhagavatam, actually, Virat Rupa's description is there in terms of like my hands, my veins are like the rivers, and my eyes are like the sun and the moon. So he's describing the different things so that we can imagine the universe in that form of the Lord. So similarly, because Shishumara is also a kind of structure which can be imagined, and the best part is it can be seen from the earth. And that is the reason why there are sages who meditate upon this particular form of Virat Rupa. And then, though it is an imaginary form, but you'll be able to see it, and whatever can be seen is easy to meditate upon. That is what is basically being told. And then, yeah. So this is how it looks. If you see, it looks like the shape of a dolphin. If we are looking at this, this is how the shape of the dolphin is coming. And this is actually the planetary system, how everything is positioned. So next, what we will do is, because we are now starting the 23rd chapter, we'll just go to the chapter and we try to read the shloka, read the translations. Is everybody with me? Am I audible and
Yes, Mataji.
Yeah. Am I going too fast, too slow? Please correct me wherever I am wrong. Hare Krishna. Yeah. So we go to this chapter and we start. There are only 9. Why I have taken so much time to explain all this? I know you must have already known, previous speakers must have covered all this. But but just because of these weekly gaps, I thought that it would be nice if we can take a pictorial kind of a summary so that it becomes easy for us to imagine. Right? So we'll go the same way that we will continue to read the translations. Wherever there's a large purport, I have tried to summarize it in my presentation. But wherever there are smaller purports, we will still read the purports. And we'll understand what is the viewpoint of that Srila Prabhupada is trying to convey to us. So anybody for the first?
Mataji, can I read, Mataji?
Yeah. Please go ahead.
Yes, yes. Canto 5, chapter 23, translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Sukadeva Goswami continued, my dear king,
13 lakh yojanas.
13 lakh yojanas and 104 some number, Mataji. Above the planets of the 7 sages is the place that learned scholars describe as the abode of Lord Vishnu. There, the son of Maharaja Uttanapada, the great devotee, Maharaja Dhruva, still resides as the life source of all the living entities who live until the end of the creation. Agni, Indra, Prajapati, Kashyapa, and Dharma all assemble there to offer him honor and respectful obeisances. They circumambulate him with their right sides towards him. I have already described the glorious activities of Maharaja Dhruva in the 4th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam.
Yeah.
Hare
So when
Krishna.
we read this translation, since we already saw the images, now we are able to imagine, right? That above the planets of the seven sages is the place that learned scholars describe as the abode of Lord Vishnu. So now it is easy for us to place it.
Shall I continue, Mataji, or
Yes,
somebody wants to?
you can continue. We are very few of us.
Translation. Text to translation. Established by the supreme will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the pole star, which is the planet of Maharaj Dhruva, constantly shines as the central pivot for all the stars and planets. The unsleeping and invisible, most powerful time factor causes these luminaries to resolve around the pole star without cessation. Purport. It is distinctly stated herein that all the luminaries, the planets and stars revolve by the influence of the supreme time factor. The time factor is another feature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Everyone is under the influence of the time factor, but the Supreme Personality of Godhead is so kind and loves his devotees, devotee Maharaja Dhruva, so much that he has placed all the luminaries under the control of Dhruva's planet and has arranged for the time factor to work under him or with his cooperation. Everything is actually done according to the will and direction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But to make his devotee Dhruva the most important individual within the universe, the Lord has placed the activities of the time factor under his control.
Yeah. So that's what we have learned in the previous chapters also about the Kala Chakra and everything. So time factor has been placed under Dhruva's control that way.
Text.
Mataji,
Somebody wants to read, Mataji? Somebody wants to take?
Anybody wants to take? Hare Krishna. Here only translation we will be reading. Please,
Hare Krishna. I'll read.
Yes,
Mataji.
Yeah.
Translation. When bulls are yoked together and tied to a central post to thresh rice, they tread around the pivot without deviating from their proper positions. One bull being closest to the post, another in the middle, and the third on the outside. Similarly, all planets and all the hundreds and thousands of stars revolve around the pole star, the planet of Maharaj Dhruva, in their respective orbits, some higher and some lower. Fastened by the Supreme Personality of Godhead to the machine of material nature, according to the results of their fruitive activities. They are driven around the pole star by the wind and will continue to be so until the end of creation. These planets float in the air within the vast sky, just as clouds with hundreds of tons of water float in the air, or as the great Shiena eagles, due to the results of past activities, fly high in the sky and have no chance of falling to the ground. Hare Krishna.
So in this, there are some wonderful points to be understood again. The abode of Lord Vishnu. Yeah. So the summary is the abode of the pole star. So far we have covered first to third verses, and what it talks about that this is the abode of Lord Vishnu. We have already discussed that, but it's just for reiteration. Then established by the Lord, pivot of all the luminaries, planets, and constellations. So imagine that there is a connecting thread between the pole star and each of these planetary systems and the different stars. Okay, so that is basically there. And what is so in the previous verse we saw, in the second verse we saw that is basically the time factor. So the thread is basically connected as a time factor, and in the third verse we saw that it is also a result of the fruitive activities. So that is also another connecting link. So if we see this, what it is talking about, fastened by the Supreme Personality of Godhead to the machine of material nature according to the results of their fruitive acts. So what is this results of fruitive acts? What is it called in our Sanskrit? Hare Krishna. Results of fruitive acts. Karma. Right. So the previous verse talked about Kala, and this verse is talking about karma. So in and these exist. The
Hare Krishna Mataji, is this problem from your end or from my end? I'm not able to hear you.
Can you hear me?
Now we are able to hear you,
Now,
Mataji.
now we able
Yeah,
to hear.
actually, my system got heated up, so it got stuck. Just give me 2 minutes and it will be fine. Because I was sitting without AC. And my study room doesn't have AC, so it got stuck. Are you able to see the screen?
Yes, Mataji.
Yeah, just give me 2 minutes, Prabhuji. I think then I'll be able to. I'm not able to shift the screens.
Otherwise, if you wanted to have a reboot, you can do that, Mataji. When you can rejoin if needed.
I think now it is shifting, but it's a bit slow. Just give me 2 minutes. It
Sure,
should be
sure.
fine.
Sure.
It is cooling down. My laptop is cooling down. Yeah, am I audible, Prabhuji?
Yes, Mataji, you are audible.
So this is how actually they are connected. So if we see the different dots, they are basically the different planetary systems and the planets, the stars, everything. And if we see, there is also a dolphin-like structure, an inverted dolphin-like structure, the tail of which is facing towards the Dhruvaloka, and the nose of which is actually facing towards the Sumeru mountain, the Meru mountain, which is in the center of Bhumandala. So that is how the structure is. So just as the bulls move around the central post, planets and luminaries move around the pole star in a clockwise direction, turned by Dakshinaavarta Prabhaha. So this basically talks about how the different equinoxes, summer and winter equinoxes are there, which was covered in the previous chapter actually. And so by wind and karma. So this thread-like structure that we are seeing, which is connecting the various, this one is basically, they are made of wind. That's what it is talking about. The planets are matter and Lord and past karmas, assisted by karma, do not fall to the ground. So why they are not falling is not what the Srimad Bhagavatam is telling us, is that this is not gravity which is holding everything together. It's basically the karma and kala which is holding everything together. When the time is up for any particular, like we heard about this Pluto disappearing or something like that. Probably its time is up. That's why it disappeared from the universal sky. So like that. So when the time is up, then that particular system vanishes from our view. So that's what happens. So the third, in the third verse actually has a very, very long purport, but I have just kind of summarized the key points of the purport, what is Prabhupada trying to say in that. So what he's saying is this. Can somebody volunteer to read this? Hare Krishna.
I'll do that, Mataji.
Yeah, please read.
Key learnings, understanding of cosmic order, Srimad Bhagavatam 5.23.3. Yeah, so first, divine order in the universe. Planets and stars orbit around the pole star under the direction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Govinda or Krishna, according to their respective orbits and positions. Brahma Samhita confirms the Supreme Lord's control over the celestial bodies. Cosmic machinery. The orbits of planets and stars are like machines controlled by the operating deities, carrying out the orders of Supreme Personality of Godhead. Bhagavad Gita 9.10 and 18.61 reinforce the idea of universe as a machine directed by the Supreme Lord. Third, nature's mechanisms. The floating of planets and stars is not due to gravity, but due to adjustments of the air, similar to how clouds and birds float. Material nature, Prakriti, and the Supreme Personality of God, Purusha, work together to maintain the universe. Fourth, liberation from material existence. Material nature, Durga, acts as a fort for conditioned souls who can live through liberation granted by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna consciousness enables liberation from the material world and entry into the spiritual world. Fifth, divine hierarchy and karma. Predominating deities of planets attain their positions due to their past pious activities. Demigods serve Supreme Personality of Godhead, maintaining the cosmic order.
So here he's talking about that planets and stars orbit around the pole star under the direction of Supreme Personality of Godhead. And reference is given of Brahma Samhita 5.52. So let's see what is actually given in Brahma Samhita 5.52. यच्चक्षुरेश सविता सकलग्रहाणां राजा समस्तसुरमूर्तिरशेष तेजा यस्याज्ञया भ्रमति संभृतकालचक्रो गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि. What is this saying? The sun, who is the king of all planets, full of infinite effulgence, the image of the good soul, is as the eye of this world. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, in pursuance of whose order the sun performs his journey, mounting the wheel of time. So we have seen that even including the sun, everything is connected to Dhruloka with this thread of Kala and Karma. So that wheel of time is connecting even the sun. So that is what is said in 5.52. So Prabhupada has actually quoted that as a supporting verse to whatever is being described in this particular verse of 5.23.3. Yeah, and then it also talked about Srimad Bhagavad Gita, where 9.10 and 18.61 were given as references. So what does 9.10 say? Mayadhyakshena prakriti suyate sacharachara hetunanena kaunteya jagat viparivartate. So what is the translation? This material nature, which is one of my energies, is working under my direction, O son of Kunti, producing all moving and non-moving beings. Under its rule, this manifestation is created and annihilated again and again. Again, 18.61. Ishvara sarva bhutanam hriteshe arjuna tishtati Brahmayan sarva bhutani yantrarudhani mayaya. The Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart, O Arjuna, and is directing the wanderings of all living entities who are seated as on a machine made of the material energy. So these three verses are quoted mainly because this particular chapter and this particular verse is talking about how everything is moving, how they are connected as a machine. okay, to the Dhruvaloka. So it is kind of, these are all kind of supporting verses to our main verse, which is basically telling us about these different things. One is that the divine order in the universe. So wherever a point comes, when Supreme Lord is mentioned, immediately we'll see that Prabhupada is actually glorifying the Supreme Lord and talking about in context also, like how he is maintaining this entire universe. That is what is being described, right? So that is why immediately that is quoted in support of this, because sometimes our material minds, some of us who may not have the complete faith, we may be reading, but we may still not, oh, all this is actually, like many people talk it about as mythology. They say that this is all a kind of visualization, for ease of visualization only everything is said, but actually this is not fact. That's what many people say. But immediately Prabhupada takes that opportunity to reiterate through the scriptures itself every time that comes, that why this is so, why whatever is being said is correct. Yes, it is the Supreme Lord who is actually taking care of everything. And that's why he quoted these particular verses, especially when he's talking Maya Dhakshena Prakriti. Everything is working under my direction. And that is a reiteration, right? And that he is in everyone's heart and directing the wanderings of all living entity, where they are going to go and sit, which planetary system. Everything is being described here. Now we'll continue the reading. So this entire thing we have basically summarized in that short text. Anybody for translation and purport?
Hare Krishna Mataji, I'll read.
Yes, ma'am.
Translation. This great machine, consisting of the stars and planets, resembles the form of Shishumara, dolphin, in the water. It is sometimes considered an incarnation of Krishna, Vasudeva. Great yogis meditate upon Vasudeva in this form because it is actually visible. Purport. Transcendentalists, such as yogis whose minds cannot accommodate the form of Lord, prefer to visualize something very great, such as the Virata Purusha. Therefore, some yogis contemplate this imaginary Shishumara to be swimming in the sky, the way a dolphin swims in water. They meditate upon it as the Virata Rupa, the gigantic form of Supreme Personality of Godhead.
So that is what, this is how they meditate, basically. This is showing that how they are able to meditate. And basically, this is an imaginary. Dolphin is also an imaginary form, like how we saw it in the previous slide, but it actually looks like a dolphin. And the galaxy and the entire planetary system is actually showing up there. Anybody for reading? Who are left?
Yes, Mataji.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. This form of Shishumara has its head downward and its body coiled. On the end of its tail is the planet of Dhruva. On the body of its tail are the planets of demigods Prajapati, Agni, Indra, and Dharma. And at the base of its tail are the planets of demigods Dhata, Vidhata. Where the hips might be on the Shishumara are the 7 saintly sages like Vashishta and Angira. The coiled body of the Shishumara chakra turns towards the right side, on which the 14 constellations from Abhijit to Punarvasu are located. On its left side are the 14 stars from Pushya to Uttarasadha. Thus, its body is balanced because its sides are occupied by an equal number of stars. On the back of the Shishumara is the group of stars known as Ajaviti, and on its abdomen is the Ganges that flows in the sky, the Milky Way.
So if we are reading this text, are we able to imagine anything, how this is happening? Is it easy to for our minds to understand?
Yeah, Mataji, when we are reading, the only image what we get is, I mean, it's a big dolphin, and in each of the every parts, it is mentioned in each and every part, I am able to imagine this thing, and I know it might be materially very big to our thinking, but that's how it is, Mataji.
But when we read the text, it's still difficult to do that.
Yes, ma'am.
So it is like this.
Yeah,
So-
yeah, that's right.
Loka, here are the Prajapatis, Indra and Dharma. So they are assisting Dhruva, basically the Prajapati, Agni, Indra and Dharma. Dhata and Vidhata. So all the description which was given in this particular verse number 5, is mentioned here. The 7 saintly sages, Vashishta, Angira, etc. are here. So we can see exactly how the dolphin is in the inverted form, where what is there. So 14 stars. So here 7 saintly sages, and then after that the 7 planets. Then we have the 28 stars, which is like Pushya to Uttarashada, and then Abhijit to Punarvasu. Actually, there are 27 constellations. Abhijit comes sometimes. Abhijit is a star which is not always available, but only a particular time of the year it is visible. So that's why it is talking about 14 plus 14. But otherwise, there are basically 27 constellations. Then you can see that the hump of the dolphin, that is where the sun is. Then Ashwini Kumaras, Rahu, and Yamaraja. So bottom of the nose, actually the last place is where Yamaraja is there. And this is how we can imagine. So this verse can be summarized with that particular picture. And it becomes easy for us to remember also. But we can't, otherwise it's very difficult for us to remember. And so if we see, this is how the things are positioned. And here is the small, now how small the Meru looks. And then we have the sun, moon, and everything located like this. And this is where the pole star is. The pole star, below the pole star is the Saptarishis, and then the different planets, Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, Mercury, Venus. Now, above the pole star is actually the Maharloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, Satyaloka. And so everything we have to imagine like how a lotus leaf is there. That is the shape of each of these systems in the universe. It's just that they are just placed one above the other. Jyotsna Mataji, do you want to read? Krishna? Sunil Prabhuji, are you in a
Hare
position?
Krishna. Hare Krishna. Shall I read Mataji translation?
Please read.
Okay, thank you, Mataji. Translation, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. On the right and left side of where the lines, okay, lines might on the Sisumara Chakra are the stars named Purva, okay, Punarvasu and Punarvasu and Pusha. Okay. Ardha and Aslesha, okay, are on the right and left feet. Abhijit and Uttarashada on the right and left nostrils. Sravana and Purvashada are at the right and left eyes. And the Dhanistha and Maulya are on the right and left, Mula are on the left ears. The 8 stars from Magha to Anuradha, which mark the southern course, are on the ribs on the left of the body, and the 8 stars from Mrugarisa and to Purvabhadra.
Mrugashirsha.
Purva.
Purvabhadra. Mrugashirsha to Purvabhadra.
Mrugashirsha to Purvabhadra, which mark the northern course, are on the ribs. One second, Mataji. Are on the ribs on the right. Okay. On the right.
Your voice is breaking.
Okay.
Okay, so Shri and Jyeshna are on the right and left shoulders. I could not find an image for this, but basically, what it is saying is on the right and left sides of where the loins might be on the Shishumara Chakra are the stars named Punarvas. So I also did not understand if we have to imagine how to imagine this. But basically, that is the description of the stars the 27 constellations. Yeah. So I'll read. On the upper chin of the Shishumara is Agasti, on its lower chin Yamaraja, on its mouth Mars, on its genitals Saturn, on the back of its neck Jupiter, on its chest the Sun, and within the core of its heart Narayana. Within its mind is the moon, on its navel is Venus, and on its breast the Ashwini Kumaras. Within its life air, which is known as Pranapana, is Mercury. On its neck is Rahu. All over its body are comets, and in its pores are the numerous stars. So the pores, acha, the stars are basically in the pores. So that is what it is mentioned here. It's the same description is continued. So translation by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. My dear king, the body of the Shishumara, as thus described, should be considered the external form of Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Morning, noon, and evening, one should silently observe the form of the Lord as the Shishumara Chakra and worship him with this mantra. O Lord, who have assumed the form of time, O resting place of all the planets moving in different orbits, O master of all demigods, O Supreme Person, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you and meditate upon you. So it is saying, so the last verse of this particular chapter is the prayer which we are supposed to do. So I'll just try to recite this particular prayer. Graharikshataram mayamadhidaivikam papapaham mantra kritam trukalam Namasyata smarato va trikalam nashyeta tatkalajam ashu papam. Anybody for translation in puppet? Okay. Translation: the body of the Supreme Lord Vishnu, which
I
forms...
can do that, Madhu. Sorry, Madhu. You can continue, Madhu. Sorry, we'll stop you in the middle.
No problem. This is the last verse, so I'll just complete this.
Sure,
The
Madhu.
body of the Supreme Lord Vishnu, which forms the Shishumara Chakra, is the resting place of all the demigods and all the stars and planets. One who chants this mantra to worship the Supreme Person 3 times a day, morning, noon, and evening, will surely be freed from all sinful reactions. If one simply offers his obeisances to this form or remembers this form 3 times a day, all his recent sinful activities will be destroyed. Purport. Summarizing the entire description of the planetary systems of the universe, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakura says that one who is able to meditate upon this arrangement as the Virat Rupa or Vishwarupa, the external body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and worship him 3 times a day by meditation will always be free from all sinful reactions. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur estimates that Dhruvaloka, the pole star, is 3.8 million yojanas above the sun. Above Dhruvaloka by 10 million yojanas is Maharloka. Above Maharloka by 20 million yojanas is Janaloka. Above Janaloka by 80 million yojanas is Tapaloka. And above Tapaloka by 120 million yojanas is Satyaloka. Thus, the distance from the sun to Satyaloka is 233.8 million yojanas, or a 1870 million 0.4 miles, 0.4 million miles. The Vaikuntha planets begin 26.2 million yojanas above Satyaloka. Thus, the Vishnu Purana describes that the covering of the universe is 260 million yojanas away from the sun. The distance from the sun to earth is 1 lakh yojanas, and below the earth by 70,000 yojanas are the 7 lower planetary systems called Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Talatala, Mahatala, Rasatala, and Patala. Below these lower planets by 30,000 yojanas, Sheshanaga is lying on the Garbhodaka ocean. That ocean is 249.8 million yojanas deep. Thus, the total diameter of the universe is approximately 500 million yojanas, or 4,000 million miles. So this is basically describing the vast expanse of the universe, and this is talking about the entire universe until the outer shell above the 7 layers. So thus end the Bhakti Vedanta purports to the 5th canto, 23rd chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled the Shishumara Planetary Systems. So here if we see, this is what is the description, and between each one, how the distance is actually increasing and increasing. Of course, it is not to scale, but it is just to show that it is, this is how it is. So this is how the distances have been described. And all of this comes under the Swargaloka, which is between the sun and the Dhruvaloka, is everything coming under the Swargaloka. And then there is Maharloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, Satyaloka. And then after that is the free space. And so there is, after the 7 layers, there is a free space also. There is a small gap, region of space, I think, which is 3.4 million yojanas. And region of liberation and Vaikuntha is above that. Yeah. So thus ends the chapter 5.23. Please forgive me if I made any mistakes in explaining whatever was given or whatever is the task assigned to me. I hope I have been able to convey the message of Srila Prabhupada to you. Krishna. Any doubts, Prabhuji, or I can conclude the call? Any doubts, any feedbacks, any areas of correction?
Actually, yeah, thank you very much, Mataji. That was wonderful session.
Thank
Maybe you may share these slides, Mataji, because this is very structured. You have drafted, and I always have a question topic, Mataji, and you have drafted very well. Okay, I think these slides, maybe if you refer in future, it will give some quick clarity. Thank you, Mataji, for putting
It is
everything.
just a copy paste, but I will still share it. I'll also share the series ka link, and definitely when you get a chance, Prabhuji, definitely see that series. It's explained
Yeah,
beautifully.
thank you.
I have done is
Oh,
only
is it? There is a series.
with the cosmology. I can't prepare all this.
By whom, Mataji?
It is by Pavneshwar Das Prabhu. He is part of
Pavneshwar Das.
Darshan Prabhu's team. And he takes the classes
Oh.
for even Bhakti Vaibhav on Vedic cosmology. He takes that. All the classes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much, Mataji. Not even.
Yeah. Yeah, Mataji, same feedback as
Very good.
yeah, same feedback as Prasad Prabhu, Mataji. It's very nicely structured, and it would be really great, Mataji, if you can. I know you. I remember you sharing this link in some common group. I don't know if you can take a pain to forward that to my individual WhatsApp, Mataji. That link, Pavaneshwar Prabhu, can you send me that
I will send
series
you
link?
for the first one, Prabhuji. When you are doing the first one, you'll automatically get the link.
Yes.
It's
Yes,
not in a
Mataji.
playlist. It does
Yeah,
not
yeah.
show in the playlist, but I
Okay.
will share you that link, Prabhuji.
Sure,
Please
Mataji.
go
Sure.
through
Yeah.
it. It is wonderfully described, and no amount of reading can give us that clarity. How
Yeah.
much clarity Prabhuji has actually provided in those videos. He made so much effort. He actually made videos also, like how the sun is rotating, and there are videos.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
there is one video I have seen. It's a
Yeah.
graphical representation of 4
Graphical
primates. Is that
representation.
one you are
In
referring,
this-
Mataji?
Yeah, in this Prabhuji, it is different from the normal other Vedic cosmology. There are many videos also, but this
Yeah.
one is very nice. It's a compilation of everything. So definitely, and it will be wonderful.
Sure, Mataji, sure. Yeah, please, Mataji, if you can share that to my individual WhatsApp, Mataji, it would be of great help, Mataji. Yeah, thank you, Mataji. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for joining, taking out time. वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। अनंतकोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय, श्रीला प्रभुपाद की जय, समवेत भक्त वृंद की जय। हरे कृष्णा, दंडवत प्रणाम। थैंक यू सो मच।
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Dhanva pranam.
दंडवत प्रणाम प्रभु जी। ताई गौर प्रेमानंदे, हरि हरि बोल।
Thank you very much, Mataji.
थैंक यू प्रभु जी। हरे कृष्णा।
Thank you for everything. Very good.